Hi, I'm Ron.
And I'm Don.
And this is the Ron and Don Show. Thanks for joining us today. Our episode today is the first in a three-part series exploring weather and what happens as across the U.S. the weather starts to warm up and through the summer and even the fall. And today's specific topic is going to be on rain and the subsequent flooding that can come from rain. As we look where we are already this warm season, we see that we've got flooding in the Midwest, we've got some mudslides out west, and certainly in the south and along the East Coast, we've seen our share of rain there as well. We are already encountering situations where we've got a lot of water to deal with.
And Ron, you know, it can get ready for this if they have some advance notice. Sometimes you have 2-3 weeks advance notice, sometimes a week, sometimes a lot less. But if you have that notice, you're going to need some plastic and some sandbags if your area is going to be flooded, if your buildings are going to be flooded. And you'll generally put down plastic, build up a layer of sandbags, and then top it with the plastic coming over it on the outside where the water will come into. You generally have either electric or gas pumps on the inside to pump out any water from the lowest point in the sandbag wall around. In some cases, you just may need to sandbag one sandbag or two sandbags high, or at worst 3, in front of a window or a particular wall that is exposed. But if you get water that's going to come up to your windows on your building or 3 sandbags high, you need to have protected it out away from the building, because the pressure of the water on the sandbags against your building can be highly damaging, and you're going to get water in the building because you don't have any way to pump out the seepage that comes through.
So as we're exploring warmer weather, we also are seeing the effects of snow melt, and the subsequent water that comes from it can be quite unpredictable and can create quite a bit of flooding. And the first rule in flooding is to make sure you're not driving through flooded streets or across flooded parking lots and things like that. Certainly you want to make sure that you follow any local announcements or notifications that might come out to alert you to street closings and things like that. On the Ron and Don website, we have a document we'd like for you to take a look at. It's called Flooded Restaurant Quick Recovery Guide. And that document goes through in great detail some of the things that you should be thinking about and acting on when you have either the potential for flooding or actual flooding that's going on in one of your restaurants.
Well, Ron, some of the things that are on that list, but it's not complete. One is, if your walls got a little bit wet on the outside, it doesn't matter. You have to remove all the covering from the walls and get it dried out, have it treated, the whole 9 yards. You'll need a general contractor. You'll need a certified person who can put the chemicals to kill all the bacteria and put the mold inhibitors in there. And your health department and your building department are going to require seeing certificates that was done before they'll let you close the walls back up and get back into operation. If you got water into the restaurant, into the floors, let's say you have wooden floors or other kinds of porous floors and or walls, you're going to have to open those up, remove them, get it all dried up, and treat it as well. And it's a very specific thing that the local codes are going to require. You're probably going to have to go get permits to get all this work done. It can be done quickly, but the key is get your contractors notified and ready to go in advance. Transformers and other outside fixtures, you may have some problems. If the transformer's high enough and the water didn't get into the transformer pit, and you may still have electrical service. If the water gets in the transformer pit, now you have the utilities have to be deeply involved in changing out transformers and getting the pit dried out, and you may have to have some specialized electricians come in to clean all that up and make it so you have power in the restaurant again. Your grease trap is going to be full of flooded water. All that water that came up to your restaurant is highly contaminated with bacteria and other sewage contents, because the sewers flow right into that water, and it is something that is a hazard even for everybody to work with. So you have to protect all your people while they're working. The walk-in coolers and freezer walls and floors, you have to watch out to see if they've gotten filled with water, because you'll lose all the insulation value, and you also have all those contaminants going in there as well. So you may actually have to do some rebuilding of that. You can't just put dehumidifiers in your walk-in coolers and freezers to try and suck the water, the moisture back out. It doesn't work that way. your food that you've had in the restaurant, depending on how well it was preserved and where it was it open or was it not open. So the health department will be deeply involved with that as well. These are just a few of the things that you have to be aware of that'll be on that list, and I strongly recommend you take a good look at it.
Depending on the extent of flooding that your restaurant or restaurants have incurred, it may or may not make sense to rush to get the restaurant open right back up right away. If roads are flooded and areas are inaccessible, it could in some cases be days and even weeks before the area is opened back up. And while it's a noble effort to feed the first responders and others in the area, it may also be a good time to, if access is going to be an issue for a couple of weeks, go ahead and do a bit of a reimage on a restaurant at that same time. And
I did that on one restaurant that I had flooded. We were going to plan in 6 months to put in new floors in the restaurant and redo the walls. So I had a week. Let's just knock it out and get it done. The restaurant employees were used to clean up all the interior furniture that we took outside and sanitized it and got it out in the sun to get it all cleaned up and get the bacteria off of it, and did that remodel. It added 2 to 3 days at most to it, put it all back together, and we were ready to go. We had a brand new looking restaurant with a shiny little penny that the guests used. Now, on the other side, at that point, all the officials, the city officials and contractors loved to come into our restaurant, even though we didn't have that many guests coming in for lunch. They'd come in for a morning and we'd serve them breakfast and all kinds of things, and they'd use that as their organizational location to hold their meetings, schedule things, get going. They would bring their staff in there for lunch or dinner if they'd been working for long hours. The people in the area who had damaged houses that they were living in the upstairs, but the whole first floors were damaged and they couldn't cook, we were getting them in to eat. And then on top of that, some of the first responders, while the flood is going down, and people that are taking down the sandbags all over the place and all that, yeah, we were taking coffee and beverages and soup and that kind of stuff out to them to let them know, hey, we really appreciate you, and getting involved and finding out from the local officials who really needs some help, who's in trouble, that we could be of some assistance within the community. And that goes a long ways, and it doesn't get forgotten. We've got a number of TV shots in the past and radio and also newspaper ads that showed that we were out there in the community donating and participating.
Sooner or later, every facility manager is going to probably have to deal with a flooded restaurant. It begs mention one more time to the Flooded Restaurant Quick Recovery Guide that is on our website. Please take a look at that. I'm Ron.
And I'm Don.
Thanks for joining us today. Please subscribe.